Cold is unforgiving, and during the First World War, soldiers learned quickly that frostbite, dampness and long nights could be deadlier than enemy fire. There's one trick from that era that deserves far more attention than it gets today. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to Warpaths of Europe so you don't miss the rare historical tactics and practical lessons we break down here. Now, let's get to the point. Why frontline soldiers relied on heat layering instead of chasing bigger fires. One of the most effective cold weather methods used in the trenches wasn't a large fire or thicker clothing, but the simple, disciplined technique of heat layering. Soldiers would trap warm air in successive layers of dry fabric, while controlling moisture with surprising precision. They understood that a thin, dry inner layer mattered more than a thick outer jacket if the first layer was wet. Wool shirts, spare puttees, scarves and even tightly rolled sandbags were used as moisture wicks placed directly against the skin. Once the inner layer stayed bone dry, every additional layer multiplied the warmth. This allowed men to survive freezing nights, even when temperatures dropped far below what their uniforms were rated for. This method still works today because the principle hasn't changed. Cold doesn't kill first, moisture does. Hikers, mountaineers and soldiers still rely on this system, but most civilians overlook it. A modern application is simple. Start your base layer with the driest material available. Even if it's a thin t-shirt, then wrap a slightly thicker layer on top and finish with something wind-resistant. If all you have is basic clothing, the same WW1 trick applies. Keep the innermost layer dry at all costs, because one wet layer cancels every other piece of insulation on your body. How soldiers used improvised insulation made from earth, cloth and body heat is quite fascinating. Another overlooked part of this trick came from how soldiers insulated their bodies while resting. Instead of piling on blankets, they built small pockets of trapped air around their core. They stuffed dry straw, spare cloth, newspapers, and even folded sandbags inside their jackets. Anything that created space and prevented air from circulating away from the body became insulation. This wasn't theory. It was a necessity when trench walls were soaked and uniforms froze stiff. Now, try this today when you're outdoors and temperatures are dropping. If you don't have extra layers, use what you have to create still air pockets. A scarf tucked loosely around your torso works better than a tight one. A jacket that feels slightly bulky with added material warms you more than a sleek one with no trapped air. The World War I soldiers weren't chasing fashion. They chased survival through micro-insulation. Let's talk about how soldiers warmed their extremities without open flames. The same principle applied to hands and feet. Troops used dry cloth inserts inside boots and gloves to create insulating chambers. These weren't thick pads, but thin separators that reduced heat loss. You can still do this with a pair of cotton socks inside wool socks, or with a handkerchief wrapped loosely under gloves. It's simple, cheap, and effective. These forgotten cold weather methods have saved lives for more than a century because they rely on physics, not gear. If you want more practical history like this, subscribe to Warpaths of Europe and share this guide with someone who values real tactical knowledge.